Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Will, and today I want to talk to you guys about a pretty important topic that should be addressed because a big event of this happened today, and pretty much nobody knew what the heck was going on, including the people participating. And that's the war mode inside of New World. So New World has a really amazing faction system, and the biggest way to have influence and change control over factions is through wars. And I did a lot of research trying to figure out a good place I can go to get you guys the information as efficiently as I possibly could. So the actual New World fandom wiki had a really good breakdown of exactly how it works, and we're going to cover that here today. So starting with declaring war. Let's say, for example, you control Weaver's Fen, and you want to also control Brightwood. As a Covenant member, if you want to have the chance to participate in taking over this area, what you have to do is participate in PvP activities inside of this region. So the bottom 3 PvP activities at your different faction will require you to flag for PvP in order to engage in those activities. Those are the ones specifically that will allow you to add influence to that region. And what influence is basically represented here by these gauges. So you can see these gauges under each of these areas, and it shows the overall influence of each area. So currently Everfall is controlled by the Marauders, but you can see the Syndicate has like a 45% influence, and the Covenant has like a 65% influence. So what this is telling you is if the Covenant is able to get their influence all the way up to 100% by participating in PvP activities, it will allow them to send this area into conflict. Once this area is in conflict, you have the ability to then declare war on that faction, putting you in a situation where you pick a date and a time, and then when that date and time comes, you're able to then queue into an event that's actually instance-based 50v50 combat. And there will be a specific group of people called the Vanguard that will be in charge of dictating how this all works. And the Vanguard is picked by the amount of influence was set up over here in terms of the PvP activities. So the gauge has 100%. So once it's at 100%, you can declare conflict. Whichever team had the most percent influence is most likely going to become the Vanguard. But actually every group that had over 10% influence has a chance of becoming the Vanguard. So for example, if you had 30% influence and the rest of the groups had 10% influence, you're most likely going to become the Vanguard, but not 100%. And what the Vanguard will do is then choose all 50 people that will be a part of that roster, and also they're usually in charge of dictating the strategy for either attacking and defending. It's important to know there's a couple stipulations that might cause you to not be able to participate, and number one is going to be the most obvious level. If you're low level, you're probably not going to make the roster, so keep in mind, if you're someone who really wants to participate in these activities, you need to grind out your level, get as high level as you can as quickly as possible so you have a chance to participate in these wars. It's still pretty early on, so a lot of war people are taking people, I mean, basically level 30 and above are able to participate. And a big way to actually get in, if you are interested, is pretty straightforward. New World operates on the same Trinity system most MMOs do. You have healer, tank, DPS. DPS being the most common, like it always is. They're the most readily available and the easiest to replace. Tanks and healers being less readily available and harder to replace gives you a higher chance of actually making it on the roster because they need tanks and healers. So playing those specific roles will put you in a situation where you're more likely to make it onto a roster than a DPS player. Once that roster is set up and everything's good to go, 15 minutes before the actual event initiates, once they set a date and time, so let's say tomorrow at 4 p.m., 15 minutes prior to that, you will be able to queue into the war zone. And once you're in the war zone, you will have the ability to purchase quite a few different things that will allow you to help build up your either your attack or your defense, which we'll cover here in a minute. But just to give you an idea of what the actual battle is, it's more or less domination from Call of Duty. Capture point A, B, and C, and hold those points. There's also capturing the fort as well. So within that 30 minutes, as an attacker, you're responsible to take these points and the fort in order to win. And the defender basically plays survival. They're playing a survival game where they just have to fight off hordes of enemies for 30 minutes and hold the fort. Once you're actually in the game and you're able to then start prepping for the war, so that 15 minutes prior to start, there is a series of things you can purchase to help you be more useful. The first thing being, for the attacking team, they're going to have a series of weapons. So you have cannons, which are cannons. Those are usually used to destroy enemy cannons and enemy artillery. Fire launchers, which are going to be more of a short range, burn them all type thing. And then repeater platforms are going to be repeater turrets that basically fire arrows that allow you to wipe out enemy forces on kind of a small scale individual level. You can target single enemies. You can shoot other enemies off other turrets, things like that. And then the defending team is going to have a series of things. So keep in mind, the defending team definitely has the home field advantage here. They're most likely going to win, to be honest with you. It's not guaranteed. A skilled team, a strong team can definitely dominate as an attacker, but just the amount of things they have available to them is going to make their life a lot easier. So they're going to have ballistas. They're ballistas. They fire giant arrows and they can wreck things. Explosive cannons. These are going to be huge AoE team wiping type weapons. These are really good for making sure that attackers can't capture points. Repeater turrets. Same thing as you get up here with them. Single target, high rate of fire, wiping people out. Fire droppers are basically, if you've been to any of the forts, they're the big cauldrons that like spill flaming oil and they can kill people at the bottom of the walls. Those are designed to keep people away from the building. And then the Horn of Resilience is basically what it sounds like. It's going to give the defenders a buff. They also have siege generators, which will actually generate resources for them, allowing them to keep up with their defenses. And then both teams will have access to traps. The Infernal Mine, the defenders can use. They're basically proximity mines. You get close enough to one, it'll blow up and hurt you and or kill you. And then the defenders will have powder kegs, which they can use to then blow open the gates to get inside of the fortress. These are super important for later on in the attack to make sure you're able to get into the fort easily. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of the timeline so you have a good understanding of how everything works. So you start by declaring war. You need to participate in PvP activities to shift the influence. Once you hit 100% influence, you can declare war and set up a Vanguard to build up your forces and put together a strategy. And then you're going to go in and compete in the domination style combat where you will capture the points in the fort within 30 minutes or you lose, and or defend it for 30 minutes or you lose. And then you have a series of different weapons that you can then purchase and have access to, along with some items. So you can buy basic food, heals, ammunition. There's an elixir of speed, which is really good for charging after the forts. Things like that will have access to you. There'll be a series of stalls in your little 15-minute queue area that you can then load up and get ready for war. You are able to gain tokens while just through participating in the event. You can then buy more things throughout the war. So if you get killed, you can buy a couple more potions and run back out, things like that. And you just got to try to take the fort or defend the fort, and winner takes all. So whoever wins gets the region, and that's how it works. Our last thing to keep in mind, a really important thing, is that if you are the attacking force and you do win and you take over that region, you take it over exactly how it is. So everything that's leveled up, so let's say your crafting stations are all level 3 or 4 or whatever, they stay that way. They don't reset. You take it over just as is. Same thing like if the fort in that region is being controlled by an enemy faction, so let's say your Covenant taking over Marauder area, but the Syndicate owns the fort, the Syndicate will still own that fort and you'll be responsible for pushing them out of that fort. But that's pretty much it. That's how warring works in New World. It's a really, really important part of the game. You know, if you control a region, you get bonuses. You get lots of bonuses. So it's important to control as many regions as you can. And it's important to focus on helping your team and helping your faction to control those areas. It's going to be a huge part of the end game for this, as well as a couple other really cool activities that we'll cover in a couple future videos. So if you liked the video, drop a like, subscribe for more stuff like this. If this was brief enough, yeah, it gave you a good understanding, like the video for sure, and leave some comments down below if I missed something important or if I didn't explain it very well. I really want to help, and I really want to get people understanding and enjoying this game as much as I do. So, again, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.